Don't forget it. Have some way to show. I was gonna do that with my jacket. No, I'll forget. I'm gonna put up. Not like everybody's you have to be in there. Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. Why don't we start our meeting? And it is 10 o'clock, and we have a number of things we want to chat about. So we'll get going, and I just want to welcome everybody. So for those of you who do not know me, and welcome, and we'll get to know each other. My name is Jonathan Search, and I'm the president of the West Seattle Amateur Radio Club. KK7LZM. So before we get into some of our business and topics of discussion, why don't we just do our go around the room and brief interviews. And if you have a call, give us your call and where you come from and or where you live or somewhere in West Seattle, if not where else. And anything else you want to add that will have us know you a little better. All right, so why don't we start?
Eric Linksweiler, W7FCL, I'm originally from Ohio. I live now in West Seattle over the Nucor RFI factory.
I'm Ron, November 4, Romeo Delta Zulu. I'm one of your VEs this morning. I'm also a VE for W5YI. Frank, K7RSD. I live over by the South Seattle College. That's pretty much it, I guess. There's a long history. Yeah.
Kurt, WR5J, Austin Amateur Radio Club, University of Texas Amateur Radio Club, lots of Texas things. And then West Seattle Amateur Radio Club, and the Desert Rats Radio Club in Palm Springs, where I have another house. So I'm about to disappear to again.
And a rodeo.
I'm one of your, and I'm one of your VEs, I think, maybe, but maybe not. Maybe I'm a backup, but I'm also W5YI, ARRL, GLARG, the Greater Los Angeles area.
Many acronyms.
Yeah.
Yes. And rodeo.
And quite a bit of rodeo.
Yes. Thank you for that.
Anna, W7AM.
Club captain.
Yeah, oh yeah, the South Park. And the AC.
Chelsea Hayes, I'm here for my technician exam.
All right.
Yeah, and I live about a block away from West Seattle Repeater up in Heckman.
Oh,
That's got me interested.
We'd love to have you as a member.
And for those of you that may not know what ACS is, Hannah, what is ACS? The Auxiliary Communication Service of the City of Seattle. Many of us are members.
It's one of the finest in the country.
One of the finest in the country.
Stan Curlin, born and raised in West Seattle. Live up by Kenny Home. Got a couple antennas listening. I'm going to take my test.
Fantastic. You can get on 10 meters then. We have a Monday night 10-meter gathering at 8 o'clock every Monday night. So, and you're in proximity of being able to get in on it. So
28, 420.
A lot of fun. We've actually been hitting VK and ZL, Australia and New Zealand, on 10 meters at nighttime. Propagation. That isn't what happens in the evening, but it so happens at this time of year we get that kind of scale. So it's a lot of fun. So join us when you're eligible. Yeah, you will. Go ahead.
Jan Willem Rosenboom, born and raised in the Netherlands, but currently on Bainbridge Island, and also here to do my exam. Of course, I work with Bainbridge Prepares, which is an NGO that prepares Bainbridge for big shake that is coming.
Perfect. Where in the Netherlands?
The middle, Barn, 20 miles southeast of Amsterdam, about 10 miles from there.
You have a friend that lives in Purmerend,
Permanent, okay,
Yes.
right.
which is not too far.
Nothing is too far.
Nothing is too far. It's very moist.
Tiny place, it's very flat and very moist, yes.
So you speak Danish, of course, right?
No, Dutch, yeah, right.
I'm Danish, I'm just. I don't know how many times I've heard that.
That's some inside Dutch humor there.
I had a good Danish friend and she would always introduce herself. Hello, I'm a Danish friend.
Speaking of Danishes, Cindy, thank you for bringing the food this morning.
That's right, I'm gonna make another pitch when you get to. me.
Okay, all right.
Sorry, what was your name again?
Jan Willem, Rosenboom. And if that is hard to catch, young William, well, we'll do it also. Okay.
I'm Trent Burkhardt. I'm on Bainbridge Island as well. Doing some stuff with the Bainbridge Island Prepares Group. Used to live in West Seattle over in the Alki area for 15 or more years or whatever. Before that, so taking the test today.
Terrific.
And this, what was your name again? Sorry.
Trent.
I'm Jeff. Same story. Associated with the preparers and live on Bainbridge Island. Here to take the exam.
That's terrific.
A lot of
My,
prepares group members.
Hopefully we're ready.
My former student is the mayor of Bainbridge, so Joe Dietz. So if you have a chance to talk with him, which I sometimes do, but plant a seed, I'm sure he would have interest in all the emergency preparedness and your ham radio geekery and all the stuff that you have. He's a good person.
Hey, morning. I'm Ju Tan. I live over in downtown Seattle. Been there for about 7 years. I'm not part of Bainbridge, but I'm just excited. I got into like this radio stuff like a couple of years ago, and I listened a little bit. Love to learn more about it and just be part of the community and transmit a little bit and talk to people. So glad to be here. Take the test today. So
Awesome.
My name is Jack Joy, and believe it or not, I am also with Bainbridge Prepares.
oh, wow.
I'm more involved with the flotilla. And we have a bunch of people who have boats that are volunteering and preparing for transporting people and goods and stuff if there's a bad quake that wipes out the bridge and the ferries, and anybody who survives, they might be part of this flotilla. So I'm here for my test also.
I'm Ken Iverson, AB7X, and a past president, Ron Kurt, of course, share that same honor, and been a member of the West Seattle Amateur Radio Club for 12 or maybe even 13 years. But it's been a really good ride, and I've really enjoyed the camaraderie of this club. This club especially is very open and friendly, and it's just a great place to land. And anyway, that's my story. I'm going to be a VE today. I have been one in the past, and it expired, so I got it renewed, and I need to get the box rechecked again. So here we are. Yeah, these badges that you see, I make those. And if you want one, first of all, I know a lot of the students here don't have calls yet, so I need have a call for it to make one. But the requirement to get a badge is you have to ask me. So, and I'll make another announcement in the class with my email. It's a little complex. Seattle Music Guy 48 at Yahoo, but that's how you get a hold of me.
Good, yeah. Ken has made generations of badges, so they're really quite the collector's item.
Yeah. The vintage box, yeah, vintage one.
I'm Tom, N7LEP. I'm the club's licensed trustee, also a communications tech for the city of Seattle for 31 plus years. Radio has kind of been my hobby, my interest all my life. So being a member of this club has been a lot of fun. I've met a lot of great people, had a lot of great activities that the club does. So I encourage you, even if you don't live in West Seattle, come to some of the events. You'll really enjoy them. They're a lot of fun.
Licensed trustee too.
Yeah, I like club's licensed trustee. So when club does an event, they use a club's call sign. Somebody sends us a QSL card, it ends up in my mailbox. So I get the honor of returning cards, which we need to get some made up so I can do that.
Yes. And Tom also maintains our repeaters. So he's our wizard when it comes to the technicalities of our.
I'm the man behind the curtain.
Yes.
I'm Andrew. I'm here for my technician's exam, and radio's actually been my job for a long time. I work in commercial radio right now. In high school, I was part of Nathan Hale High School's KNHC program.
Oh, cool.
And so from there, I got a job at Bonneville, working for that 3-station cluster, Cairo AM, FM, and KTTH. And in my time there, I've gained an interest and a passion for the engineering side. I started out just as a board op, running the board and stuff. So now I'm trying to get into that field, and this feels like an extension of that. Emergency preparedness, I want to learn more about that. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome. Place to be.
John Kimball, KF7AZP, the hub co-captain for the preparedness site that's nearby here at the other end of the Salvation Army. Been licensed for since 2009. From Spokane, moved over this way. I live about 3 blocks from here for about 3 years now. So I think I'm also going to be helping with club properties and a library system of some sort here shortly. So may hear more from me on that.
I'm going to speak to that. Yes, Cindy. Or how about Jose? How about you go first? Introductions, where you come from, whatever else you want to share. Anything that we don't know about you and we probably should know.
Let's see, it's not much. I guess I've been in the club for a few years now, not too long. I took the ham radio class here, got my licenses, so that was awesome. I recommend it to everybody. I
So he's a survivor.
Yeah.
In this very room.
Yes. That's right. It was a good experience. It was a good experience, and so I decided to join the club at that time. Here I am. Not as active as I'd like to be, but I'm currently going to graduate school, so I'm finishing up a degree in electrical engineering, like I need another degree. But it's something interesting, keeps me out of trouble, so that's always good.
Very good. And what's your call again?
Kilo 7 Golf Delta Echo.
Golf Delta Echo.
Yeah.
Dave, how about you go first?
Yeah, I think we're good to go to Nick.
Oh, Nick,
sorry.
yeah. Nick, sorry. I was going to, go ahead.
I'm Nick KK7LZM. I'm the vice president of the club and trying to take notes. So.
Also a graduate.
Of the pro, yes, that's right. I took Dave's general class last year. I thought it was amazing, really interesting. I hope he does
His extra the same day.
Yeah, I took the extra exam, which I didn't take the class, so I'm hoping Dave will have an extra class because it was interesting memorizing all the questions, but I'd like to learn.
Right. Jeez. That's great. Anything else? So Nick and I do a podcast, Ham Radio Takeaways, and Dave Alpha Alpha 7 X-ray X-ray offers the double X factor with regard to information and training and educational segment of our Ham Radio Takeaways podcast. So we're a little bit delayed because of some of my other distractions. We're a little bit delayed on our next episode, but that'll be forthcoming. So go to YouTube, just look up Ham Radio Takeaways. And I sometimes say if you have a hard time sleeping, it's an excellent page. But I don't think it is. I think it's actually quite interesting. I think it works. So you be the judge. Anyway, go ahead, Dave.
I'm Dave, Alpha 7 X-ray X-ray. You guys are all too familiar with me by now.
been your tormentor for the last couple of weeks.
Tormentor?
Tormentor.
Tormentor.
Currently live in Bellevue, but I'm realizing apparently I need to move to Bainbridge. Picture's supposed to be. I'll just say it's been a blast. You know, this has been a very good class. You guys have been a lot of fun, asked a lot of good questions, a lot of good discussion. You know, it's been a lot of fun. So, yeah, thanks for taking the class and, you know, enjoy it. I took the class with Ken and Tammy way back when, and Jonathan, you were one of the first back then. Yeah, that's right. And, you know, the family all, you know, got licenses that day, some 12 years ago. And then I joined the team teaching, and it's just, you know, kind of gone from there. It's now a Zoom class and online, you know, kind of getting with the digital age and COVID, it's sort of changed into a Zoom class. And so we got people from all over the place, including places like Bainbridge. People from the Netherlands for crying out loud. Or Denmark.
Word's good now.
That's right. So anyway, that's my story.
That's great. Thank you so much. Dave's been leading our classes for a number of years now. As I think you alluded to, it's been a transformation. And especially with the YouTube archive, it really sets up students to be able to study at their pace whenever it's convenient. So it's really it's a nice adaptation. Next generations.
Jonathan, if I could interrupt, what Dave has done with the electronic formats and things is amazing. The first classes that I was involved with way back when with Tammy, even before Dave got involved with, were paper flip charts, literally, you know, in kind of a different kind of a spreadsheet. You just spread the sheet over the easel, but it's amazing to kind of think about where we've gone in a relatively short period of time.
Yes. Yeah. Great. Nice work. Okay, Cindy.
Cindy Barker, Kilo Delta 7 Kilo Sierra Hotel. I live in Morgan Junction. I'm a baby hand because I do more the emergency hub stuff. Bainbridge Prepares, if anybody wants to learn about it, we've studied Bainbridge and Vashon, and there's a book written called Prepared Neighborhoods by James Scott, one of the two. Yeah. And you can Google it, and it describes how their whole community has pulled together and taken on the aspect of doing preparedness. So Seattle and its 800,000 people environment is a little bit different, but what I want to say about the food is Ron and I are leaving for 6 weeks. There is nothing in my refrigerator right now, so this stuff all has to go away. I am so disappointed Barry's not here because he always takes money. So please eat all of this stuff.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you so much, Cindy, and that's good information. So I'm Jonathan. I've been licensed for 30 some odd years and been a club member for many years, not all of those memberships with other clubs across the country, different parts of my life. But the president for the last 3 years, and I think I'll be an alternate VE, but it doesn't sound like that I need to be, but I'm here and Kurt's here, so anybody for whatever reason can't do it, we have backups. You can do it. And let's see. I guess I just want to say that to build on what Ken mentioned earlier, that we have not only a very interesting and fun club, but it's thriving in many different ways. And we have activities for most, if not all of the months of the year, at least a once a month club meeting as we're having now, but we have outdoor events. We had our summer alki social gathering with some radio, wherever Greg is. Oh, you're going to say
Once a month breakfast?
Yeah, we have breakfast. We have an Elmer's breakfast at Great American up in West Seattle, and among other things. So we have field day every June. So and we join up with other clubs to have a pretty impressive field day showing. So it's a lot of fun.
Monday night nets.
And Monday night nets and 10-meter gatherings and so many other things. So go to our website, w7aw.org. We're one of the oldest affiliated ARRL affiliated clubs in the country. We just celebrated last year or 2 years ago. Last year. 75th anniversary affiliation. Among other noteworthy historical accomplishments.
All sorts of activities, like operating activities too. So when you get ready to get out and take your radio to someplace, there's like islands on the air things and lighthouses on the air.
Codas and sodas. As Tom likes to say, if you can't summit the mountain, you can take your car and be sort of. Summit on the air, it's sort of.
And after I got my tech license, I did a tour of Jonathan's HF station, which was very impressive, and he was very generous with his time. And so maybe you asked nicely, you might be willing to show. It's a very cool setup he's got. So if you are interested in HF, I highly recommend finding someone that has such a station and taking a look, because it's pretty inspiring.
So take advantage of the talent pool that's here, really, and spend some time. It's a lot of fun. So. Okay, so
Greg Wright, our treasurer, is downstairs right now letting people in. He's also a longtime member. He's just not in the room right now.
So check our website and you'll get clued on to events. And if you have any questions, get in touch with any of us and we can turn you on to other things to think about. If you don't have enough to think about, we can always help you.
Great. Give a shout out to John KK7LZM for maintaining the website.
Yes.
Does a fantastic job.
Yep. Yes.
And he'll be posting this video on YouTube later.
Terrific. Yes. So we have lots of people who have hands and we've done a really good job in the last few years of distributing how we do what we do as a club. So we're baking in resilience, or not redundancy, but ways in which more people can have hands in doing what we do. And for me, I think that's partly a sign of a club that's in good shape and in good structure, but it also means that it can be more sustainable because there's a lot of people that can carry on with others. Right, okay, so a couple of things. So this morning, what I want to do is just give you a couple of updates, and then and this is, sorry to interrupt.
You guys ready for a test?
Yeah. Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah, we should get that started.
Yes.
And let you get on with
yes, maybe so. All right.
All right, you guys.
All right, good luck. We'll see you in a bit.
Yeah, you're meeting.
That's all right, yes.
Good.
Knew that was coming.
Picnic table outside.
Right.
Stable now.
Pretty good turnout.
Yeah. All right, so now that it's just us, now we can really get down to business and make some important decisions. So let's see. So the first thing I just want to mention is that Nick and I had a meeting with John and Rita yesterday. And sorry, who were John and John?
John and his wife.
Oh, Rita. Yeah. KO. And I just want to mention that first off, Rita, who can't be here because she's not feeling 100%, has offered again, sort of a follow-up to our conversation we had months ago, to work with Nancy and May and Nick on advancing our membership relations efforts. And specifically, she's going to help develop with them together as a committee of sorts to develop a working strategy on how to keep in touch with our members and to as I think of member relations, but what I mean is to engage with and keep current and remind folks that we have things that are happening and invite them to join us and so on and so forth. And that's good not only for participation in club activities and so on, but it's also, I think, critically important for us to cultivate next generation leadership for our club. so when we put out the call for people to consider themselves to be candidates to step up in whatever capacity, people that are more in the know or more comfortable with club activities, they're more likely to say yes in some way. So rather than a cold call. So I'm really appreciative of Rita offering that, and then May and Nancy and Nick, they've actually done a lot already. You may not know, but Nick has been sending out for new club members a template form welcome letter that has a whole host of information on it, which is a dramatic upgrade, I think, and improvement on however we were trying to communicate with new members in the past. Not to imply that that wasn't helpful, but this, I think, is a more coherent welcome onboarding. And so Rita and others are going to build on it. So anyway, I want you to know that. And then secondly is John has offered, again, to work with Brian. And I don't know if Brian, I want to assume, but I don't know if he's going to run again as quartermaster. But John working with whomever is quartermaster to create an inventory of our assets in our storage, as well as an inventory of whatever's not in our storage. So if there are things that others still possess that hasn't made it for whatever reason, sometimes these things are too heavy and we can't get into the storage bin. So Tom may have like a giant amplifier in his basement, but we just can't get it stairs. But the good thing is that will finally allow the board and all of us really, but the board to know what assets do we have in storage and how can membership gain access and use them if they need them. And if we have any of those assets that we want to sell and generate some revenue, then we can make an informed decision about that. So John's going to create eventually an online inventory or Google. So we'll all have. So I just sent an email yesterday, copied to Brian and others to kind of get that ball rolling, and hopefully this fall term, this fall quarter, we'll see some next step evolution on that. So we can talk about it. So anyway, I just want to mention those two things are really important that we've been wanting this for some time. And so thank you both for helping. Let's see. Something else. The other thing I just mentioned, I'll say this first, and we'll get to what Nick and Eric can show us, is that we do have elections coming up, and I'm planting that seed earlier this year. Not, I guess, simply to say that often, not always, but often, we're a little bit delayed in getting word out that elections are coming, and I'd like us to see the ball coming a little bit sooner. So here's what I need from each of you: is first of all, I want you to know I am not running for re-election. All right, so we'll have a new president. I understand that Greg has indicated that he's not running for treasurer again. We can't do it. So we'll need a treasurer. We do not currently have a secretary. Jim has been a stand-in, and Nick is primarily our stand-in. He's doing double duty. So we don't have a secretary. And I think, Nick, can I just interrupt for a second? Did you say who you have verified of the board positions that are needed to be removed?
Yeah.
You don't, if you want.
May is the only person that has a continuing term.
Okay. So that's John, JWW.
Yeah.
And Michelle.
They both could run again. I don't know if they haven't.
But they're up for re-election.
Yeah.
So we have two board positions: secretary, treasurer, and president. Now, I just want to say to you that for me, aside from other things I've been having to manage in my life, I've been in this position for 3 years, and I think it's time to have succession occur. Greg has had at least one term of 2 years, and others have rotated in and out. So the reason why I'm mentioning this now and for all of you to hear is because we really do need to cultivate and encourage others, even if they don't see themselves stepping in at this moment out of anxieties or whatever. For good reasons, I'm not sort of diminishing that. I'm saying we need to be able to communicate and encourage others to step up. So if you know someone or you bump into someone that you think you have an instinct that they could be a good fit for a board position in whatever capacity, either, well, talk to them directly, encourage them. But if you want to point them my way or to Nick's way or whomever, please do it, because that the clock is ticking, and we really do need to have a range of candidates if possible, not end up with empty seats. Nick, anything else on that particular topic you want to mention?
Well, I mean, I think you said it right. It's the board is important, but it doesn't have to be a huge, overwhelming. I mean, I don't know, you guys, it's a small audience here, right? Everybody understands, but yeah, I think it is lots of upside and very little downside.
So I've worked in volunteer organizations for a while, and one of the pro tips is people will say, well, I don't want to leave, I'll be happy to help. And then all of a sudden you have 2 assistant treasurers with no main treasurer, but at least it gets people there and somebody always steps up to take charge. So if you recruit anybody and they say, well, I can't take, because the term I use is not volunteering, it's voluntelling. So like, we really need you, I really need your help. I didn't realize you were an accountant in your career or whatever. You know, it's low key, not much, but I don't want to leave. If I get you an assistant, would you help? And most people have a tough time saying no.
I think the other thing that has helped is in our organization is you have a description of duties. You know, these are the minimum things, and it's usually like 4 things. And then, you know, here's the other things if you've got the energy. But that is helpful for people because they always go, how much time is this going to take? Right.
Yeah, maybe we'll revisit that and make that a part of our website.
Yeah, and actually that brings up a good point at the Admiral Association meeting. I thought you had a pretty good, like you had that down, right? So that when
somebody asks, you can exactly say,
oh yeah, it's this, and it's really only this because this one's not that bad, right? Yeah, that was a good pitch.
We'll work on that. That's a great idea.
Because like the treasurer thing is like, it's balance the book and it's group, you know, give the report every month. And the other people are like, do I have to talk to the IRS? You know, they don't know, right?
Yeah, there are particulars, and as Nick is alluding, and you all know, it's important for our club. Our club is in very good standing, and we're high energy and lots of good things. And the invisible infrastructure of the club is the board holding its shape and doing what it needs to do and having the officers do what they do. So, but the good news is that it, at least in this generation anyway, that's what I can speak to most readily, it doesn't seem overbearing. And it seems as if we've been able to establish, building on previous generations and other administrations, a proper delineation of who's doing what. So we're not relying on a few people doing everything, which just spells burnout and creates other implications. So we've done a good job of distributing whatever that is, and that can build on. Anyway, so we can help get word out. Have any thoughts? So why don't we go to the ISS?
Yeah, our little Harris follow-up. Yeah.
Yes.
So, right. So we had the ARIS contact, right, with the Pacific Science Center. We worked with the Pacific Science Center for, I mean, when did we first talk to the Pacific Science Center?
I think she first reached out to us in January.
Yeah.
First Zoom call.
Right. So for over 6 months, we were working with them to set up this contact with the International Space Station, right? It's a 10-minute long conversation with astronauts. I think many of you know all about this. Were you, John and Jose, were you guys at the event?
I was not.
Okay.
East of the hills.
Great, yeah. So it was a 10-minute long conversation with an astronaut.
Saw the video.
Yeah, okay, fantastic, perfect.
That was great.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. Huge. I think it was a huge success. After the contact, our technical mentor gave us a call and gave us high praise. I think he said it was one of the best.
Said it was the best audio they've ever had. Which we can't really lay claim to. The Science Center and their theater staff are unbelievable.
Yeah, right. The Science Center folks were amazing. I mean, it was there were so many times that we ran into somebody who had gotten looped in, Science Center staff that had gotten looped in at the last second because we needed that, we needed access to the roof, or we needed someone to put together an on-screen display that we had in fact on. If probably everybody is familiar with this, but this was the this was the visual that we had on the screen. So we had a video of the antenna, we had a ground track map of the ISS, and then we had a spectrum scope also, so we could see when the call started. In fact, you can see this is right before, this is us making the initial call out, you know, calling out W7AW, and I think right about here,
Yep.
we just started getting, I mean, it was the first time we did the call out. We immediately heard back from Jeanette Epps, astronaut Jeanette Epps on the International Space Station. It was clear, beautiful, it was perfect. And then, you know, everybody was thrilled. We told everybody no applause, so it was silent. But then the students started asking their questions. So it was a huge success.
So real quick, there's one thing that the astronaut said here that is going to lead into a second part of the story. She said, before we get started, I want to say hi to McKenna Moffett from astronaut Mike Barron's, I can't remember his name, Mike Barnard. Okay, and then let's go with your questions. So remember that when Nick's done giving this up.
Yeah, so these were high school students who were part of the Discovery Corps. It's a program that the Science Center was running at the time, and these were 5 or 6 of these kids that were there. Yeah, out of a much larger group. So they were asking questions on behalf of the larger group. And for weeks before this, that larger group had been doing various radio-related activities. So this part, I don't think we saw at the event, right? It turns out, so these kids had, they had built Yagi antennas, tape measure Yagi antennas. They had built attenuator kits, like from components, assembled all of them, and they did radio fox hunts.
Yeah, they mentioned the fox hunt part.
Yeah, exactly.
So can I just ask a question? So Eric, why did you just mention that Mike wanted to say hello to somebody?
I'll say afterwards, 'cause it's something I want to play.
Oh,
yeah.
It has an interesting story.
Okay.
To add to what Nick said, the 10-minute pass is icing on a cake after you made your own kitchen and built the cake. Because this is an educational program. The educational program is where they had an educational mentor and a technical mentor. The technical mentor helped us make sure we were doing things right. But the educational mentor and the educational program is really what's judged. Can you pull this educational program off? And that's why schools and science centers get it so well. So that's what, we didn't see a whole lot of that piece of it. I wish I knew more about it. So if we ever help somebody else that's not as astute as the science center, you know, another elementary school or a high school or whatever, that we can help them. But it's really the education these students all did. They learned about radio propagation. They learned about solar cycles because it's one of the programs they had to learn as part of this program anyways, regardless of radio. So.
And actually, one of my favorite things right there, the carrier signal was shifting slowly over time. And then the jump in the carrier signal that you can see on the waterfall is when I turned to a slightly different station in order to keep the signal on. Yeah, it's a slightly different frequency, sorry, in order to keep them, you know, on signal.
Yeah, so what you had done, if I understand, is you arranged a whole number of presets.
Yeah.
So that they were right there, you
Exactly.
could dial in the best
Yes.
one. Is that right?
Yeah.
What's interesting about that too, and I think it's because not as many people are as astute with the radio system as like Nick, but they didn't let us use computer control for Doppler shift, which we could have done, and it would have tracked the whole thing seamlessly. But they wanted us to be on channels just because it minimized the rate of the risk of error.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's funny, I've never seen that before until you pointed it out.
Yeah.
Control shifting.
Yeah. There was people in the audience that.
Sorry, I'm not. I don't have to go to the bathroom. I just get out of the way there.
Wait, stand there. That's perfect.
This is good.
There were people in the audience that asked questions about that. I thought that was really cool. They were non-hams that were like, what's the deal with the shifting signal on that display? I thought that was really. They were really impressed with the audience turnout at the Pacific Science Center. Actually,
It was almost a full house, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was a bunch of people. They were very pleased. So that was great. But yeah, do you want to do your?
So when the astronaut said, you'll hear, if you listen to the whole thing, and I encourage you to maybe do it once, but it's like watching a wedding video, you don't need to
all the time. But the fun part of it is the actual pass, because you can see everything happen. So anyways, when the astronaut calls out to McKenna, we had met this young lady and her brother and her mom in the audience and said, hey, she knows one of the astronauts. Mike's from Vancouver, Washington. And so the astronaut that was up there with Jeanette, he's a ham, but he wasn't assigned to our contact. So she was telling us about this. This is a fun, geeky kid. She had just gotten her license a month before. She was very interested. She wore like a NASA space cadet jacket. I mean, she's a sophomore in college. She's goes to the Chicago Art Institute, but is a complete geek. She's taking a class in neon right now, neon lights and measuring RFI and things like that out of it. So it's really interesting. So anyways, when they called out, I said it the day, I gave her my email, I said, I'll follow up with you later if you want to do a satellite contact like we did with Chloe or the handheld radio stuff. And I said I was gonna take a break from radio because this was a lot of work. And so she emails me the next day and she's like, I know you said you're gonna take a break, but I go back to college this Friday. Is there any way we might be able to do something? And so I said, sure, there's past tomorrow, Sunday morning. Why don't we meet at Lake Savannah State Park and see what we can do? So I explained it to her. We were there for about 20 minutes. I'm showing her how I use the ISS detector on my phone, have everything set up. And I had just bought a new radio, a Yaesu FT5D that records both sides of a transmission. My Kenwood TH74 only records incoming transmission, so you never heard me talk. So this time now I can record both sides. So this is really hard to see, but this is her. Great kid with I'll send this picture to Nick so he can include it in notes. But what's most important, and I thought was just unbelievable, is this.
Kilo 7 uniform Mike Bravo. Charlie November 87. Kilo 7 uniform Mike Bravo. Charlie November 87. Over. Kilo 7 uniform Mike Bravo. QSL, you are my first contact. 73. Thank you for the contact.
What an amazing experience. Her mom, I showed it to her mom. Her mom said, are you crying? I'm like, this is great. You have this kid that's so excited about this. She gets this contact. She'll remember it forever. She wouldn't even do a test QSO with me. She's like, no, my first contact would be through the space station. So then I got her in touch with. Yeah. I've actually never talked to her on the air yet, even though she's been texting me back and forth with connecting with the radio clubs in Chicago and things like that. So, but now I'm super busy with schools. I've heard from her for a bit, but that to me is the stuff that makes the club special. So we did this great event. That was awesome. But to be able to, any one of us would have done this for this young person. It's just, I was lucky enough that she was the one who passed. So super cool to have that kind of stuff. The Science Center loved that this became part of the outreach of what they did.
And where was the fella on the other end?
Arlington.
In Arlington, okay.
KK7COH. And I've actually talked to him too, because he's always on the air. When Nick and I were doing all of our practice runs, he was always there. And so I talked to him on the phone. I said, hey, thanks for working with us. And we did some testing where we put 50 watts from the ground up through the repeater. And most people are coming up with 5 watts. And so we were kind of blowing out signals, but he was very generous in giving us some feedback. But anyways, that's why I brought up that contact, because that was the very first thing you heard in that, but you didn't see that part of it or hear this. One thing I will say, unfortunately, she's not a social media person, so she did not want that contact shared, because ARRL and Eris both wanted to share that as the fun of ham radio and satellites. Okay.
I think that we have 2 follow-up things. One is Razorback Aviation High School.
Yep.
That I don't know if you want to talk about.
Let's do. There's 2 Eris follow-ups, and then we'll go to Razorback. So first off, we met with them. Nick was on site. I was on Zoom this past Wednesday, and it was kind of an after-action discussion, but it was more so with their exhibit folks saying, how do we bring radio into this? Nick gave a bunch of great ideas. I asked them, give me a list of what you're doing, and we'll tell you the things that are most appropriate, because they don't know what radio can do.
So if they're talking about earthquakes, earthquake preparedness and emergency preparedness, great place to bring in the hubs, Seattle ACS, and the basics of a technician license and things like that.
Yeah, one of the things that they said is that really they want to do something that is unique to the Seattle area, because it's the Seattle Pacific Science Center, right? And so they don't just want to do like worldwide history of radio. Like that's interesting, and they might include something like that, but they want the focus to be more about something more unique to the area. And I think what we ended up suggesting was the emergency for ACS, AMWAN, the hubs, how all of those are working together in a way that's like really is at the forefront of this kind of partnership in the country. Right?
Yeah. So we followed up with them explaining Cascadia Rising, what radio does with that. So you got to be really careful, because when we had our first Zoom call with the Science Center, we overwhelmed. We gave her 1,000. I mean, imagine all of us on a call saying, "What can you do with ham radio?" I mean, the hardest part is getting us to shut up. So I think they need to say, "Here's some things that we're doing, and here's our plan." And their plans with exhibits are like 4 or 5 years of plan. It's not a quick plan to do this. So
that sounds like they plan it all in one giant master plan.
Sure,
so
that's good.
And then they're on a cycle, and the next cycle doesn't even start. The next cycle to start planning doesn't even start until next year, and so it's just going to be.
So I'll check with Washington EMD to find out when the next Cascadia, because they do exercises every couple of years.
They just did it 2 years ago.
Right, and it depends on funding and
The
grants.
pandemic screwed up their cycle. I think they're trying to do it every 2 or 4 years.
Right, so if we can sync it into one of those years, the problem with how they do that is they're like super secret. Nobody should know this is going on, and we're like, you should tell everybody you're working on this stuff.
The way you find out about what Washington EMD is doing is you go to our work and do it, because they're more open with it. So anyways, there's a lot of.
I sit in on their meetings, so yeah.
Nick and I will maintain a relationship with the Science Center. Anybody that wants to or has or wants to be a part of it, more than welcome to, but we'll just keep a little drumbeat going.
Mm-hmm.
And when they say we want to do a class, we bring in Dave. We want to talk about emergency hubs, we bring in the resources that can happen. There is a little bit of follow-up from Eris as well. Anybody that was involved in it that wants a QSL card, I'm happy to get one for you. The reason Tom didn't get a QSL card was because you have to go and ask Eris for one, and then they provide it to you. Uh-oh. No, it's right here. Okay. So my goal is to hand this off to Tom. Please take a look at it. This is really cool. You can get this if you just listen to the space station. But I got my first one if I could talk you through it. But you can see on the back, the astronaut's name says W7AW. Okay, great to see it. So we'll pass that on. Second thing about Eris is that we captured a lot of what we did on our website. A lot of the equipment planning and things like that. So, and then coincidentally, when Kurt was disassembling his roof stations for putting on a new roof on, he gave to us his complete satellite setup. So this is a lot. This is a lot of money to get. So the Yaesu Azel rotors, the 20-meter or 20-foot beams, the 2-meter, 70-centimeter. I don't think preamps, but not 100% necessary. Everything basically but a radio. So the goal is that if a school shows up and says, "Hey, we want to do this again," instead of having the unlimited funding that the Science Center has, because schools just don't, the club has the ability to go set this up at a school to run this. So I want to keep that in mind as a club asset. I'm probably going to set it up at my QTH just because I want it to work, and I want people to practice with it. But then, anybody that wants to can, or just hopefully it gets transported to schools to use. It's big. My kid and I had to carry it from Kurt's house to my house. And if there's no better way to bring shame to a 16-year-old than carrying two-meter, 20-foot long beams up the straight hill, I don't know what it is. Yeah. Then the third thing that Nick brought up was Raceback. So Raceback is where the club supported club member Warren KK7LZM to put a station at the school. This station was LEED certified, which meant it had great solar films, block radiation out, also blocks RF out. So they couldn't get a signal outside of the school. So they had this great 2-meter 440 radio. They wanted to listen to ground control, the Boeing Field, and they were on Boeing Field property, or the BNZL flight property, but they couldn't hear anything. They were dead. So we worked with the heads of the science program there, Scott McComb, KSLZ S3 OMB who went to the ARL Teacher Institute and got his license there and operated W1AW as his first QSOs, which is pretty cool. But he wanted us, I said, we still have some money left over. We can do some cable runs for you. We have to get a tent outside. After about 3 months of nobody knowing who's allowed to do it, we got the principal to say, just go do it. So Nick was very helpful. I could have done it without him. But we basically ran the cable from the classroom up in the cable runs, figured out how to track it down around in the roof or in the floor, and then get it outside, drilling a hole and mounting it. And it was Comet GP3, GP7, I can't remember. It's a good 2-meter dual band antenna. We hooked it up, went back, tested the station, and it was magical. It just had the biggest set of ears you could ever hear. And interestingly enough, because it's north facing, if you go down, you can see it on the second floor balcony. I didn't know this, but the backup this antenna was what I purchased, a backup station, a backup antenna from Aris. So our contact, they want a vertical. Because the passes are about 40 degrees, they don't want an overhead pass because it's just too much to try and do. So the backup is using these dual band or a 2-meter antenna that has lobes that send out at about 30, 40 degrees, which is what most of them do. So they might be able to listen to Aris as it does a northwest to east pass sometime. So I'm hoping that they do something more with this. They've had several students that have been hams there. We pledged that the West Seattle Amateur Radio Club would support them, in radio programming or troubleshooting and things like that. Basically, that's me. But anybody else can help. Definitely, they want to be able to do a class sometime, which of course involve people much smarter than me. But yeah.
So if you do the class, are you gonna like leave a little class teacher points I covered agenda? We're trying to get other people to teach in the hubs, and we're coming up with what we call standardized training. So it's got the facilitator talking points. So it makes it easier for someone to go, I'd like to help, but God, I don't have your brain. And you've kind of put your brain in a talking points
What
order.
might be really interesting with that is not asking me that question, but asking Scott, because he's the educator.
Sure.
Because they've been doing ham radio there. They put APRS on weather balloons and launch them in Eastern Washington. So they touched and dabbled with it, but now that the station's got to be permanently set up in this classroom, we'll just go turn it on when there's a quiet time, listen to whatever.
Mhm.
So, but that's a great question for him. We have to follow up with him now that school's gotten started. So I may ask him that exact question and see if he wants to.
But that way you could get other members of the club who don't know the stuff, but like haven't taught in a while to go do something
Well,
like
one
that.
of the things that they lost in the pandemic, and it was one of the secret sauces of that school, was their mentors. So they had a lot of mentors from Boeing. They had a lot of mentors in their robotics program. They got mentors in their solar car program. I'm hoping that they can do something with radio, and we obviously can provide plenty of mentors for them.
Cool.
So more to come on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that there's a lot of club members that helped out with the Harris contact, and it was so cool. I mean, everybody, Ron and
Anna.
Frank and Anna and Dave, just to name a few. There were a lot of other people.
Even calling Tom at 7 OEP saying, hey, we got a problem. Can you come in and help us diagnose this? And he just shows up.
Yes.
We told them it was a problem with the way that they did background checks. Your background check took 3 weeks because they forgot about it.
Yeah, right.
And so they thought that I would be the only one allowed on site to help with them until they got him passed. And that's why there's only 2 of us sitting up on the stage, which was difficult. But I do want to get a list of all the people that help with the club, and we'll get them all their QSL card with their names on it because I want to memorialize and thank them. I did learn from the perspective of volunteering that if you just ask who wants to help, you don't get a whole lot of interest. But when you say I need something or the event becomes more real, we had a lot of help. Yeah. I was very thankful for that.
And it was easy. I mean, the background check was hard, but just showing up to help was easy, right? I mean, it didn't require a commitment. It didn't require like special knowledge or like Anna showed up and she's like, I've never done this before. I don't know like how to help. What should I do? Her being there was so useful. All she did was
show an HT and go outside and can you hear us?
Yes, it was so useful. Yeah.
And what was most useful, and I hope she doesn't watch this, but it turned her into somebody who's passionate about something. So the next time this happens, she knows something about it and can help. I'm not the only guy that knows satellites. I just happen to bring it. You guys see it. And there's a whole bunch of wealth. I mean, literally within 2 weeks, I think Chloe knew everything that I did about satellites.
Yeah.
But it was fun to see all that, and I do know that there were some people that communicated with me privately that they did not want to do anything that required a background check, and that's fine. But that's gonna hinder us at any school or science center that we do anything that involves youth. Youth protection is a huge thing, so that's okay. We've got plenty of people that do, and plenty of people that can help. But I do want to put Eris to bed for the club for a while, because I don't want them to think that West Salem Amateur Radio Club means we're the satellite club. We have a lot of other things we do, so we can put this away until something else comes in. We'll talk about the HF, talk about the HF gatherings, talk about nighttime nets. So I want to take the focus off Eris, not for any other reason than just to make sure we get the other parts of the club elevated.
Yeah, my thought was it could be helpful without having always be foregrounded, that when those passes occur and when it is within reach of us to have a contact, it might be helpful to have, whether it's a real-time map, one of those programs that can show, where the satellite is and it's coming around, or at least some schedule, so that anybody that wants to know when is it coming around, they can try to get.
I think those instructions are actually on our website right now.
Oh, it's already there.
But yeah, we tried several times to encourage club members to come out and meet us at a park to do this. And, everybody's got busy lives, and this is just a hobby. So we didn't get raging interest in it. But I looked for this morning's pass if there was one that would have make sense.
Yeah, and there's a great pass at 6:38 p.m. tonight. Yeah, it's like there's like 2 or 3 passes every day.
It is, but it moves throughout the day.
Yeah.
So it moves earlier progressively. Eventually you get to the cycle where it's 7 a.m., 2 a.m., midnight. And the best passes are the 6, 7, 8 p.m. ones when the sun hits it and it's dark enough here that you can actually watch it. So
yeah, it should be visible at 8:15 p.m. tonight. There's a visible pass, 39 degrees, passing from west northwest to east northeast.
And even if you just hear the space station, you can send it for a card. There's an SWO card. And they're very generous. Yes, sir.
So can we do a club event, just sort of publicize that we're gonna do a space station pass, maybe go over to South Seattle College, set up our equipment?
We did,
Just
so
have people
we
show
did
up.
one here, through not the ISS, but through another satellite pass, at a club meeting. But I would love to do a mini course. It takes 20 minutes to learn how to do this.
Yeah.
Including the 5-10 minutes of the pass itself. And we can do whatever we want. So that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think parking is a lot easier at South End than Hiawatha.
Oh, yeah.
So we could go over there and just convene, and
Yeah.
I think that'd be a lot of
That's a
fun,
great idea.
especially at night. So as you say, we can see it.
So will you help plan that?
I will, yeah.
See how that voluntelling works?
I think that's a great idea.
Any other questions about any of this stuff?
One more question. Did we record or somehow capture any of the work that we did to put together the station?
Yeah, we have pictures of it that have been taken. But the real recording of all of that and the documentation is all gonna be in subsequent blog posts from the Science Center. It's really their content, it's their event.
I'm thinking
And
more
so-
of like all of the, background stuff that we did to set up the radios and
Some
things
of
like
it
that.
should, so short answer, yes. We will do a better job because what's on the website now is what led up to it.
Yeah.
But we'll put some additional information on there. So look at what's on the website and ask the questions like, hey, this doesn't say this, how did that work?
Yeah.
I'm too nearsighted. I see it because it was right there. And I
You
lived
were there, you know, with all the steps, but that would be really nice to maybe even put together a video and say, this is how we actually got this contact to happen.
And just so you know, I didn't do this because I'm the expert. I was most involved because my office is a mile away from the Science Center. So it's really easy to go over there once a week and talk with them.
There's a photo album on the website. So if you go to w7aw.org, right on that homepage, there's one of the highlighted stories is the Pacific Science Center. And inside of that, there's like a ton of links. One of them is photos. So if you look down, you can find photos and that'll take you to a Google Photos album.
You'll see where we started, because the very first thing we did is Ryan Weber and I went on site. And said, here's how you build tape antenna, and here's how the space station is.
But it also includes photos of the antenna and the controller and the radio station and the app and like the process of putting the antenna up on the roof, which was an adventure.
That was actually the single most expensive part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
They paid $9,000 to get a 65-foot boom lift, to put it up
Don't
there.
pay me $9,000.
They wouldn't let us do it. They had to get a firm because they were worried about OSHA standards. I'm like, it's your money. It's your money. It's your roof. It's your antenna.
I have $1 million insurance policy for doing that.
Yeah, I just, when they came, I'm like, it's your building.
Well, and the club has liability insurance for the activities that we do too, and we signed an agreement with them. So they were very, very concerned about that.
It was their legal contracts person, and you're just not gonna win that fight. Yeah. So, and to be honest, we were running out of time. I wanted them to have the complete station built and available by the end of June, so they could use the month of July for testing. As it was, the antennas didn't go up until the beginning part of August. Part of that was because ICON was so generous with donating a station, and the paperwork to make that happen just takes a little bit of time.
And we were also scrambling for a logo.
What?
A logo.
Oh, a logo. That's the other thing. I didn't want to necessarily bring that up because it's a tangential thing here. Through the course of this, we realized that the logo that we have is probably copyrighted from another company. It's probably not a fun, it's probably low risk, but doing things like this put a spotlight on who we are. So you saw the logo that we posted that had the space name of the city of Seattle. We basically, this was a last minute effort to go buy a logo from Adobe, so we knew we didn't have a copyright issue. Put our information in there, but that, I paid for it, so it was my risk. I don't mind doing that again, but what I'd really like to do is the club to do a concerted effort of rebranding and actually put some thought to it, not just me sitting in a hotel in Germany, getting something because they need it within 30 minutes to publicize.
Yes, Eric, and thank you for doing that. I want to say that we actually did make a decision. It was a concerted effort. And we actually did have a process. We just didn't follow through on that process and we ran out of time. So what Eric graciously did was do the stopgap, which allowed us to have something that we could project publicly. But I don't think it's going to happen this quarter. It may, but for the next administration, you really need to foreground how do we have the process that we had in mind and was agreed to was that we would have X number of draft logos. The board would winnow down or have some preliminary conversation, and then the larger membership would weigh in on these or other ideas. But we had a process in mind.
One thing that the surface is when we realized how the space needle is a foundation, and they have very strict licensing rules around it. We didn't know that until we had some stuff to consider, and that's when we stopped and we had to real quick do and run pivot. So there are a lot of great efforts.
Right. We need to do that in part because it's not just the space station initiative, but there's so much that we're doing as a club that a rebranding with a logo that modernizes who we are and how we reach next generation radio ops. We have to be, I think, thoughtful and careful about not inadvertently waxing nostalgia so strongly that it turns people off. Right? And our 1920s RKO electrified antenna tower on our logo is nifty, but it may not speak to a generation that we really need to have join us because we need newcomers and younger people in particular.
And I need a new t-shirt. My logo's falling off.
And there's that. We need to help Ron maintain his wardrobe. That's a priority, actually.
So maybe we can reach out to somebody like at the Chicago Art Academy. We'll contact them.
I never thought of her. You're right.
And say, hey, can you help us come up with a logo?
And I've tried to. We paid for Chloe's. I paid the $12 to get Chloe a membership here, but I think every student we come across, we should give them the associate membership, which is free. Just get them involved, have them listen. I didn't mention it because we've got a bazillion things to do here, but we're starting back up the Youth on the Internet, which is a Thursday night net. I try and just get young voices to talk among high schoolers or middle schoolers that have their licenses. And I tried, we can all listen in, but I'm trying to keep voices like ours out of the conversation so they can own it. It went dormant over the summer just because everybody's busy doing something else. Having the club being identified as a special service club, a log-standing club, but also
a place that youth can come to and feel like they've got a fun place to learn from. Because that was what McKenna asked after that contact. She said, "Can I join the West Salem Retreat?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Absolutely you can."
Well, and also, I mean, we had conversations last year or so about having young persons represented on the board, you know, to have a youth voice on our board and among other capacities, so.
There is a program in the city of Seattle that the mayor appoints youth to boards and commissions. So you could have something where it's a board appointed youth ambassadors.
There's no law, there's no
So-
state rule against
So
any
one of the
age.
testees this morning who looked like Cody, you know,
Well, and so also Mary RTF, who I haven't seen for a while, she's, I think, maybe I'm not sure I heard this correctly, but on the check-in roster, I think she was relegated to not an active participant. So I don't know what that means, but in any event, she used to go to the Women in Technology annual conference. You know, she used to set up a table and represent not just West Seattle, but other things. And I was always hopeful that, and I think it actually did translate into a few more women joining our club. But my thought was someone like Mary who could be helpful in reaching out to those organizations and inspiring more younger women to get involved, women of any age, but women to get involved in our club. The more we do that, I think the stronger we are, so. Obviously.
Do we wanna give Cindy a chance?
Yeah, so thank you for that, Eric and Nick. And
that went a lot longer than we planned on. So a lot of fun stuff to share.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the hubs use radio, but we use GRMS radio. But we know that there are ham radio operators in all of our communities. So one of our groups up in Capitol Hill invented something they call a ham hub. And what they wanted to do was in Capitol Hill, invite all the ham radio operators to a meeting to say, this is what we are, this is what we do. And we had, as a partner, ACS come so that the person got, here's what regular amateur radio does, and here's what radio operators could do in their community, even if they're not a member of ACS. So after that meeting, which brought a certain number of people in, and they got, you know, good connections out of that, we kind of analyzed it afterwards and went, that was a lot of, they mailed postcards, you know, you go to, you know, the licensing, all the stuff we always do. And they went, for what it got them, that was a lot of money and a lot of effort to do. But the concept was really good. So they said, hey, Hub Network, can you figure out a way to reproduce this kind of at a scale? So we don't have, you know, we're not a board, we're just like a couple of us help facilitate these kinds of questions. But we met with, we asked ACS to partner with us on how would you do this? And what has come out of that is a thing called Ham Connect. And so it's somewhat the same thing. You would reach out to all new ham radio operators who have their license within maybe the past 3 years. Just like we often do, you know, here's a new ham, we send them a postcard. But you would reach out to them and you'd say, we'd like you to connect into the hobby somewhere. And here are the groups in the Seattle area, and there's 7 of them that do different aspects of the hobby. There's ACS, there's the hubs, there's Mike and Key, there's a medical services team, there's Cascadian Radio, there's Mike and Key and PSRG along with ACS. Right, so we went to each of those and said, if we had a way to do a mass distribution and ask everybody to come learn about these hobbies, could we do that at one of your club meetings? So the net program is that we are asking each of the groups who are wanting to participate in this to host one meeting at like their typical club meeting. And then we put that on the calendar for Ham Connected. So everybody who's interested in learning about new things in the hobby can come to one of these meetings. So your meeting would be your typical meeting. And then we go, okay, now Ham Connect stuff is, and then each of the representatives from those organizations gets up and says, you know, 3 minutes about what the focus of their group is. So like, you know, how Jonathan had to do that. Here's what when they had the radio guys in here, this is what we do. This is our focus. This is how we meet. We're social. We do all these different projects. ACS, on the other hand, is very MCOM. You know, they talk through what they do. And so each person attending would be able to get an assessment and stand there and talk to the people in the group and figure out how to plug in. So we're gonna do a pilot of 1 year. We're gonna have 4 to 5 of those meetings. Some of them will be in person only. Some of them will be hybrid. One will be virtually online, and we're trying to set them up so it's weekends, evenings, so that everybody gets kind of like the same program, just in different venues. For our club, I've negotiated with the board that we are planning on taking over the last part of the agenda on Saturday, March 15th, which is our March regular club. And we would co-host with MST because their meeting is the same day. So they're just gonna not have their meeting. They're gonna come here like we did that one common other event. Come here, we'd have both club meetings, and then the Ham Connect would take place at the end. So it's pretty straightforward. You know, you guys don't have to do anything other than have maybe 3 slides, you know, and I'll work with someone on the club to, you know, like how to concisely convey what you want to do. And if there's anything else you guys are going to do on that meeting night or that meeting day, like sometimes you have show and tells, you know, I think that would be cool, right? You know, it does something that doesn't take, you know, 4 hours of explanation, but you know, somebody brings in, like how we had that, bring in your old radios day one day, you know, bring in your new radios, something like that. So I just wanted to put that on everybody's radar. If anybody has ideas, talk to me. Lois Adams is my counterpart over at ECS that's helped putting this together. And then once we have a letter drafted, we're just kind of waiting until the end of the year to line it all up because it's going to start in 2025. You don't want to send out stuff too early.
Right.
And there will be a landing page, you know, people can type in hamconnect.org and they have that page where they can go see what sessions are and any updates that have to come out after the written letter was sent.
My biggest fear, well, the thing that I noticed, if you look at Ham Map, I think it's Ham Map, you can see the hams that have given geography, so you can see who lives near you. I would be willing to bet that our club has less than 5% of the hams that are in West Seattle attended.
Oh, sure.
It's a huge thing, and my fear is people get their licenses and then they get a Baofeng and they don't know what to do with it.
That's exactly what we're trying to do is plug those.
I think very commendable, I like it.
Plug those people in and get them going. We figured anybody who's had their license for more than 3 years, and, you know, it's about $800 in postage cost with the cutoff.
Well, leverage Tracy at the West Seattle blog.
Oh, yeah, totally.
That gets a lot of attention.
So that's, and then the other piece of that is a representative will have to be at these other meetings, which is with all you people I know who call and go, hey, you're at this meeting already anyway. You talk the radio. Okay, thanks.
Great, thank you, Cindy. That's really good. That's it. Is there anything else, Nick, that we need to touch on? Or? That's it. Anything else by anyone for the good of the order?
Thank you, Cindy. That was delicious.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Take more.
Unbelievable. So, Ron, when do you leave?
Monday.
Monday.
I'm gonna stop the recording.
Was anybody else on the call?